Okay, so we are live now. I want to welcome everyone to our program. I'm going to admit everyone. We had some waiting in our waiting room. So I'm admitting everyone that was in the waiting room. And we want to thank you for joining. Okay, sorry for that little delay. We had a large amount of people in the waiting room at the same time. So I want to welcome you to our program. This is the premiere of Pontiac Strong. This is a program that we had planned for March of 2020. A collaboration with, well, it's actually an Oakland University program that, featuring the documentary Pontiac Strong. And I've been working with Tomoko and on the resilience project. We shared the documentary at the library. I think it was in 2019. And so I've seen it, and I think that it's a really great thing to educate people on this subject. So welcome to our program, and now you'll hear from Tomoko.
Okay, well, thank you, Devin, and thank you everyone for joining us today. So my name is Tomoko Wakabayashi, and I'm on the Early Childhood Education faculty at Oakland University. I'm also a member of the Oakland University Pontiac Initiative Early Childhood Education Group, or OUPs, and a master trainer for the Michigan ACE Initiative. And you'll hear more about the Michigan ACE Initiative from Lisa Farnum during her opening remarks, which will follow right after this. I'm really excited that we can finally premiere the documentary Pontiac Strong. This documentary features 11 individuals who work or live in Pontiac. And as Devin said, we started filming last July, so it's been more than a year. And our event was initially scheduled for March, but it needed to be canceled due to COVID-19. And Pontiac Strong was created as a part of OUP's Pontiac Resilience Project, which Coco Motor, Shauna Boongard, and I co-lead along with Dr. Shannon McNair, who is the co-convener of OUPs, and also my colleague in early childhood at OU, and Dr. Alan Epstein, who is the OU Political Science Department. So as part of our Pontiac Resilience Project, we've been, as Devin mentioned, we've been screening the award-winning documentary Resilience, the Biology of Stress and the Science of Hope. We just call it Resilience. But we've been doing this since early 2018. We've done it in partnership with Devin at the library as well, but at various locations across Pontiac, including Pontiac High School and with the parent university of Pontiac schools. And with Pastor McDonald, and other places too. But the 11 individuals in Pontiac Strong have shared with us their stories to further strengthen the message conveyed in the documentary Resilience for the people of Pontiac. So here we'd like to take a couple polls here to see whether, so the first question, and Devin will prepare the poll for us, but have you seen the 2016 documentary, Resilience, the Biology of Stress and the Science of Hope? So Devin, if you can show the poll for people, be able.
The poll should be showing. Yeah, I see people are answering.
Great.
Well, there's 35 people in the room, so I will end the poll after everyone has answered. We're almost there.
So yeah, there's
Okay.
2 questions. Yeah, have you ever seen, and then also, have you ever heard of the term adverse childhood experiences?
Okay. Well, we have 85% that's voted. You want to end it now?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's see.
Let me show you the results.
Great. Wow. So 83% have already seen the documentary. That's great. And then, oh, all of you have heard of the term adverse childhood experiences. That is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So for those who have not seen the resilience yet, we will let you know if we do have if we do host another one and or hear opportunities that you can view. And also my colleague Shauna Bloomgard will fill you in on some of the key messages right today, right after the opening remarks. So on slide 3, can you go back one slide, please? Mm-hmm. Yes, so here are the Pontiac community partners who helped create Pontiac Strong, and a few of whom you will be meeting during the panel discussion that will be facilitated by my other super colleague and co-convener of OUP's, Coco Motor. And if you have any comments or questions during the session, please drop them in the chat box, and my colleague, Dr. Epstein, will facilitate the Q&A. So we're greatly indebted to many who are listed on this slide and many more whose names may not be on here. But given the time constraints, without further ado, next in the agenda, we kick off the event with the opening remarks. So Devin, back to you for the opening remarks, please.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Farnum, and I'm the Managing Director for the Michigan Association of Health Plans Foundation, which is the founder of the Michigan ACE Initiative. I've been asked to speak today about the work of the Michigan ACE Initiative, and I'm excited to be able to provide opening remarks today for the Pontiac Strong premiere. First, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Michigan ACE Initiative and how it was started. The initiative was created in late 2016 after the Health Plans Association had Dr. Brenda, one of the researchers of the original ACE study, present as the keynote at their summer conference. Interest in creating a public awareness and education campaign soon followed, and we were invited by the Michigan Health Endowment Fund to write a grant to get it started. Primary goals of the initiative have been and remain to a large extent, first, to create awareness and educate the public on ACEs, and hope that this would ultimately lead to research, the adoption of trauma-informed policies that reduce ACEs and eventually lead to prevention. Second, we provide training and technical assistance across sectors and populations to not only raise awareness, but to also identify, understand, and respond to ACEs. Our third goal is to pursue ACE-aware, trauma-informed policies, both in the public and private sectors. You may be wondering why the Health Plans Foundation would be interested in taking this on. A look at the Michigan data from the 2016 BRFIS, this is the annual Behavioral Risk Factors Surveillance Survey, showed the prevalence of ACEs and this is as reported in adulthood in Michigan. 39% of Michigan's population were verbally abused as children. 29% lived with someone with substance abuse. 27% reported having parents who were separated or divorced. 20% lived with someone with mental illness, and 18% were physically abused one or more times as a child. If you've seen the film Resilience, you are probably familiar with the 10 ACEs and have recognized these statistics all fall in the ACEs-related categories. What we know is that adverse child experiences lead to poor health outcomes in adults. From that same BRFIS survey, we found that adults that had 4 or more ACEs were over 1,200% more likely to attempt suicide, 1,000% more likely to inject drugs, over 700% more likely to consider themselves an alcoholic, and over 400% reported a recent bout of depression. But we also know that ACEs do not guarantee a difficult future. We know that social support from friends, family, and community can help buffer ACEs' negative effects. While the Michigan ACE Initiative was statewide in focus, its interventions support local efforts to mobilize community partners and create trauma-informed communities that build resilience. We rely on communities to identify their needs so that we can provide tools that are needed to effectively address local problems. This work cannot be done from an office in another city or another town. It is essential that there are communities doing this work across Michigan. So you want to say, what does ACEs awareness look like at the community level, say in Pontiac? ACEs education can lead to gaining a better understanding of the importance of seeking what happened to you, not what's wrong with you. It can lead to learning why someone with ACEs may be triggered. It can also lead to an organization diving into ACEs and asking how they affect people and how it affects people could lead to developing policies through an ACEs lens that are more community friendly and help build stronger partnerships. The data is compelling, but its work is about people. That is why we need communities like Pontiac. If we are going to move the needle on mitigating and eventually preventing ACEs, we need everyone to be involved. It's communities that can solve these problems, working collaboratively with all sectors. Community engagement and initiatives like Pontiac Strong are key. It is in the communities that we will build healing and resilient environments for the residents of Michigan.
Hi, I'm Maddie McKinney-Hatchett, and I am a retired educator. My career was being a teacher and also being an administrator, which included being a principal. When I became involved with the project, the ACE Project Resilience Project, I was highly motivated. And I was highly motivated and supportive of the project because I had seen firsthand what happened to children who were in these toxic, stressful environment. And so I have tried to be as supportive as I could with the project, and to also encourage other educators, community leaders to become more knowledgeable about the Resilient Project, to see the film, to participate in a discussion groups and everything. Now, why? Why am I supportive of this project? More than ever, I see our children are involved in and are living in these stressful situations. More than ever, we have more children in single homes. We have children who are in environments where at least one of the parents has been incarcerated or is incarcerated now. They are exhibiting all kinds of negative situations that they cannot cope with. And how do I know they're not coping with it? It's coming out in negative behavior in the classroom. They are rebellious. They are giving teachers, principals, rough time. They're not making the academic progress that they should be making because of these toxic situations that they're in. They're in what the Resilient program called ACE, Adverse Childhood Experiences. And if there isn't some kind of involvement from outside, these children are going to repeat the same thing that their parents have done. And then they're going to have children. And the cycle is going to go on and on and on. So I am really, really supportive of this program and us reaching out to churches and other leaders. I'm disappointed that more of the community leaders in Pontiac have not seen the film, have not participated in any discussions, have not been involved because our leaders are the ones that really need to promote this project and to stand out. So I'm really supportive of this project. Now you're probably asking, well, why should the Pontiac community be involved with this? Why not? Because Pontiac is low income. Pontiac has lots of children who are in these negative environments and who are being exposed to sexual abuse, physical abuse, all of these other signs that they would exhibit so Pontiac, really, if any community needs to be involved, Pontiac community leaders need to be involved with this project to help our children out. And you know what? They don't need to wait until the children in middle school or high school. We need to be involved. Head Start, preschool, while these children are going through their formative years, where we might be able to have a greater impact on reversing what is happening to them. So I really feel that Pontiac needs to be involved, and I stand as one of the community leaders that's willing to do any and everything that I can to help these children in these adverse childhood experiences that they are having. And as I have spoke to Ms. Coco, there are some community leaders. I don't want them coming and trying to participate and speak about something that they haven't shown an interest in. I need them to see the movie. I need them to be involved in a discussion and to help us put together programs that will help these children.
Hello, I am Kelley Williams, the superintendent of the Pontiac School District. It has been an honor to be a part of this important project that can directly and positively impact not only our children, but our families as a whole in our community. When I first saw the film Resilience, it spoke to me on a deep level. I knew this was something that would be important for our community to experience as well. We immediately went to work with the team to bring the film and the project as a whole to our schools. We showed the film to our high school students and held a candid discussion with them on the impact it had on each and every last one of them. We saw incredible positive outcomes from those interactions with our students. The film actually touched me in the most impactful way. I lost my son, for those of you who have never heard me tell this story, 5 years ago. My son had cerebral palsy. He was 10 years old. It was the most devastating experience I've ever had in my life. After viewing the Resilience film, it shed light that I had experienced a traumatic situation in my life that had never been addressed. This film, Resilience, helped me to connect the dots and understand the impact that it could have on the lives of our students, our families, as well as myself. Having a deeper understanding of how trauma impacts each of us and the residual damage it can do if we don't address it is deeply important to the success of individuals as well as all ages. This project helps bring that to the light, as well as providing tools and resources that are easy to access for our community in order to help curb the impact of traumatic events. Again, please take this serious. Please review the outcome of this Resilience film and talk about it amongst your colleagues, your community, your stakeholders throughout the community, and begin to really, really dive deep into the discussion around resilience and how you can overcome traumatic situations. Thank you for this opportunity.
Hi, this is Rosemary Bayer. I am the state senator for Michigan's 12th district. And I have had personal experience with people who have been through the trauma of adverse childhood experiences, also known as ACEs. And the film Resilience, I had the opportunity to watch that film and learn so much about the research behind what happens when children are exposed to those traumatic experiences. The toxic stress that it causes will bring on all kinds of physical and mental behavioral diseases, anything from heart disease and cancer to depression and alcoholism and behavioral issues throughout someone's life. The film was amazing and the stories were heart-wrenching. The hopefulness is that there's something that can be done, that we can actually get to kids early and diagnose this ACEs, the toxic stress there, and we can provide for families, for people, the tools, the services and tools that they need to stop the damage that's being done and to prevent future damage being done. This is all preventable, this is all treatable, which is a really interesting idea. And so I was really excited to watch the film and to become a part of the community of people who are working to expand the use of these tools to help kids to change their life trajectory. If they've gone through these kind of traumatic experiences, to help them be able to move forward in a healthier way, and their families at the same time. So I highly recommend you get a chance to watch that film and take the training and exercise every choice that you have to be a part of the solution. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm State Representative Brenda Carter, representing Auburn Hills, Keeper Harbor, Sylvan Lake, Orchard Lake Village, and of course, Pontiac. I'm here today to talk about the Oakland University Pontiac collaboration, the Early Childhood Program. This has been a fantastic program that's given opportunities to our pre-K kids. So yes, I'm excited about this program, excited about what we're going to be doing on the 24th and 28th. And I'd like to thank the partnership for the great work they're doing in Pontiac.
All right. My name is Shauna Boomgard, and I am the manager of academic accountability at Oakland University. And I am also a member of the OUP's Early Childhood Group. And I'm also a doctoral student in the Early Childhood Program. So I'm very happy to be here tonight. This has been a labor of love. I want to thank everyone who participated in the making of this film and throughout the opportunities that we have had, not only in school districts, but in some of the other opportunities that we've had, and we hope to continue the work that we are doing. The film Resilience, the documentary, was released back in January 2016. It was directed by Robert Redford, and it was an award-winning film. And we thought, what a great idea to make a documentary called Pontiac Strong that could really highlight the resilience within the community. And resilience truly means hope. And by creating a community where we can provide children and adults with responsive relationships, with a community where we can strengthen some of those life skills, where we can become sort of just a giant family, where we can really support one another and support the children of this community so that they can grow up to become healthy adults and be, this is just an amazing opportunity. So without further ado, I know we've been waiting a long time to show this film. So without further ado, I would like to really just say ta-da and enjoy the film Pontiac Strong. Thank you all.
Just a moment.
Pontiac was an industrial town. And as such, they had maybe 6, 7 plants with people working 2 and 3 shifts every day. I remember stepping on buses when I was out of town and looking down at the bottom and seeing the plates that made in Pontiac, Michigan. It gave me so much pride. I could be anywhere in the country and made in Pontiac, Michigan, and get on that bus. So, it was an industrial town and we made things. And all that went away.
So when I watched Resilience, I brought my daughter and my husband, and at first I didn't know what to expect. It just brought me to a time when, before I had my daughter, I thought like I was going to raise my kids, whoever they were, to be raised just like me. The movie made me start thinking about how we raise our kids. I found myself yelling at my child when I was trying to cook, and she was standing there screaming at me, and I had done everything I could for her. She needed a nap, and I couldn't get her to go to sleep, and I screamed at her once, and it sounded like my mother. And I had to take a step back. Sorry. I had to take a step back to realize, I don't want to be my mother. I'm stuck in the crossroads here. I know that my daughter will never have the trauma that I had to live with, which is great. It's a step forward. But I also don't know that that my mom will ever understand how it affected me. So I'm trying to balance between the world I was given and the world I'm trying to create.
When I was introduced to the adverse childhood experience information, I found it necessary to have that screening here because I believe that all of us have a responsibility to reach out to those, to provide them the information, to try to address this very, very important issue. So I thought it was great that we were able to screen it twice, and certainly would be looking forward to screen it again. When I look at that situation, and specifically the problems of or lack of proficiency that many of our students are experiencing in school, the movie helped me to see that this toxic stress, this adversities may be at the very root of why our children are going through the things that they're going through. So when I deal with folks now in my congregation, when I deal with folks on the street, it helps me to take a step back and think about, I may not know what that person went through.
So I saw the Resilience movie during an ACEs training, which is the Adverse Childhood Experiences. I work with a lot of clients that sometimes I don't understand the depth of trauma, the depth of experiences that they may go through, but to see that the film brought hope and getting to where you want to be, it gave me a lot of promise for what I do for clients. Also, Grandparents Raising Grandchildren is a kinship care support group. Kinship care, again, is a relative who is raising children as a parent because the parent is unable. Some of the participants are permanently raising children because of a death or life prison sentence. Others may be temporary or permanent guardians of children. Some have adopted their grandchildren or relative child. Some have informal arrangements. Each and every one of them, their journey is different. But the end result is they have children in their home they hadn't planned on raising, but out of love and to preserve family bonds, they have them there.
When I discovered it, it was on one of my most critical crisis days. My daughter had the fourth child, and she was in preschool, and I was stressed. And I went to the Circle Building in Lake Orion, and someone said, well, they're having a grandparent meeting. I'm saying, what? They got a support group for grandparents? I said, I need to be there. And so I walked into that room, and of course, teary-eyed, because I just felt like the weight of the world was on me. I didn't have my mom yet, didn't have my brothers yet, but it was just felt like a weight. And so that lifted a lot off of me, because I could meet other people that were similarly situated and could understand and empathize and sympathize with me. Maybe some days you just want sympathy, but they can understand the burden that I carry. And so it's just been a lifeline.
My second grandbaby, next to the youngest, she was at OSA, and somebody started talking to me about grandparents raising grandkids. They asked me, have I heard of it? There's something you should get into. So I'm a newcomer, because I didn't immediately check into it. I was so busy, or I thought I was so busy. But since I've been into it, it's meeting other people, just going through the same things.
It was like a learning experience, and it's helped them to see that there are people out there that really care about them.
Well, how did you overcome this condition? The child doesn't want to go to school, or the child has been injured in school by other children. And so you can talk with the grandparent that's dealing with different ages. So there's a lot of support. It's a very important group.
My daughter passed in 2014, and I moved back to Pontiac into her place so that it wouldn't be such a disruption for the children at the time. A year later, in 2015, their father passed, and it was really just heart-wrenching for the both of them.
And when we get together, we able to share our stories. Because I'm just starting to talk about it because it's too painful.
We need each other. We need this love, this kindness, this care, this compassion, this patience. And I thank you all.
Teacher and principal, I knew my students were affected by different things that were happening in their lives, but I think the movie brought it home to me. It made me really see the importance of doing more for them. I began in 1985 when my own son got into trouble, and I felt the pain, the grief of my son being taken away from me. I made an affirmation that I did not want a mother to suffer like I had suffered, even though I figured I had done everything that I could to help my son. And so I started a program feeding the athletes at then Pontiac Northern High School. I gave them a pre-game meal, but I didn't just feed them Food. I also got involved with them with their ACT tests, made sure that they took it often enough. I paid for it out of my pocket so that they would be successful. I have to tell you that some I won, some I lost. Some went on to do great things with their lives, and some of them made same mistakes that my son did.
The number one thing someone needs to know when they're struggling with adversities is to know they're not alone. And when you are in a situation, you may feel like you're hopeless and that nobody understands. And I think that's why OLSA's Grandparents Raising Grandchildren support group is so important to kinship caregivers, because just making it to their first meeting is a huge, huge hurdle. But once they come, they feel welcome. They don't feel that isolation anymore. They don't feel that there aren't resources to help them.
It is possible to get help from doctors, from your school, from your faith. There's hope. Don't give up. And we need to get that message out to them in terms of names, telephone numbers. Not everybody can go online. And that's what one thing people need to remember, because we even have senior citizens like myself that may be still suffering from the aftermath of coming from an alcoholic parent involvement, or they may themselves be victims of domestic violence. There's hope, so don't give up.
And I believe the church needs to get back to its rightful place of being that number one institution. I believe that the church needs to be what it has always been, which is a refuge. People need to be able to come within the faith-based community, within the church, and be able to find some solace, be able to find the help they need, be able to find the peace that they're seeking.
The resilience offers you the ability to talk about the notion of how does one approach success when they're faced with adversity. And, because adversities are a reality of life. It's something that we all face. And why is it that some are successful at facing those and moving on and others aren't?
If I come home and my kid's yelling at me because something happened to them at school and they just want to deal with it, instead of me going, well, my shit is more important, I can put that aside and I can go, how can I help you? And then sure enough, my kid always finds a way to help me too. She always, because she's grown up in love and compassion being all. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter what you do for a living. All that matters is that you can have the capability of loving another human being. That is all that matters to me. And then I'm proud. But if I'm not right within myself, she's not going to help me. She's just going to react. And they can be really more loving than any age of life. They are the most loving when they're children. And they are the most forgiving when they're children. And they're the most empathetic when they're children. But the more we subject them to reactions of our anger, that's what they're going to become when they get older.
Then you had tax rolls that had all those plants working. You could afford to have your own parks and recreation program in these activities. So how do we create these opportunities for well-meaning adults to be in touch with individual lives of young people to complement what goes on in their own homes? And that's a very essential part of the stability of community in terms of making resilient children. You got to remember where you came from in order to get to where you got to go. Growth is inevitable. Pontiac's bones are too strong for it not to grow.
Okay, so Coco.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
So you're up, Coco.
Are you saying I'm up? I'm sorry.
Yes.
All right. So I just wanted to say hello to everybody. We are more than gracious for you all to join us with this discussion surrounding ACEs. And at this time, we're going to start a discussion with our panel. And so the question that we are answering today is a question around COVID and our connection to ACEs in this environment. And so the question I am going to pose to the panel, and we'll start with, let's see, let me shift over here. We'll start with Maddie Hatchett, then we'll go to Gil Garrett, we'll go to Pastor McDonald, Mary Jane, Kelley Williams, Dr. Turpin, and then, oh, hi, Lisa, and then Christopher, in that order. And there's a 3-minute time limit. So the question I have is, as community leaders and people in this community of Pontiac, what is a strategy or what is a step that this community could take to help our community understand the impact of ACEs and where we need to go forward in the future?
So are you asking that question within the context of the COVID? Oh.
Yes, I'm asking the question in the context of how we are experiencing COVID, because this has changed the environment of our community at large. How are we as community leaders, all of you on this panel, what do you see that we as a community need to do to impact intervene on the impact of ACEs for our young people?
Okay, well,
I have unmuted everyone, and if you are still muted, you may need to unmute yourself. Well, Coco, I don't know if it was okay for me to respond yet, but I know that during COVID-19, people are at home more. And so some of these adverse experiences are worsened by this. And I think that it's important that people know resources that are available, and like the helplines, and you know, like within the churches, letting them know who they can reach out to and how. And then also the shelters, as far as domestic violence and those situations where people need to know that they can get out of the situation. They don't have to stay there and suffer. And then for those who are not currently in a situation, but who have been through things, they need to know where counseling is available. And we need to also help people to, we have to remove the stigma. It's very, it has been a shameful thing or a scary thing for people to even admit that they have been through things, or, you know, they don't want to necessarily share with many people or the general public what they've been through, because they don't want people to look at them as being weak or crazy.
Did everybody hear that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe she missed that Maddie was first.
Oh, I didn't hear anything. It was just very quiet and everyone was muted. So I was trying to fill the, I didn't hear Maddie at all. I actually don't see her on the
No
list.
problem. We heard you nice and clear. So I'm
Oh,
going to go
good.
ahead and defer to Ms. Hatchett.
You want to mute me?
Uh-huh. Go ahead.
I think I'm still muted.
I got you. They can hear you.
Oh,
No, you stay there.
oh,
You can
okay.
talk.
Because that's Devin, that's not me. Sorry about all of this. I'm not technology savvy. I'm here with Coco so she can assist me in what I'm trying to say. First of all, as things begin to open up and we can have some kind of contact with young people, we need to mentor them. We need to understand what they have been through over the last. Many of our children were being abused, mistreated, and they had to escape of being able to come to school and do some activities, interacting with their teacher and their friends. Now these children have been shut up for a long time, for months, in this toxic environment. So what can we do as a community? One, get educated about ACE. This is where we've kind of fallen short. Some of our leaders and everything, they have absolutely no knowledge about ACE and the toxic situation that the children have been in. Secondly, we need to do some mentoring. And we need to mentor these young people, do activities with them where you can be in an environment where there's 6 feet distancing. We do some activities with them. We gotta help them build their self-esteem up. And at the same time, we also need to mentor and help their parents because their parents have also gone through some.
Okay, we were getting feedback, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. So you shouldn't hear the feedback. So our next panelist should be.
Oh, was she finished? I didn't want to. She wasn't.
She was finished. Yep, she was finished. It should be you,
okay.
Gil.
Okay. Just almost just to piggyback where she came from. I think it's very important that we all understand, even though we have specific roles, just like this panel is, and we've come together, but we live in a community where we all talk to each other even outside of this. So I think as we're moving forward, we don't wait a week or 2 weeks. Like I just saw the movie Resilience, right? And so I didn't even know, I didn't know we were even doing the healing steps that the resilience is calling for from a law enforcement side, because we didn't identify what it was. We get called to a call and you bring the kids out of the way, right? But you don't, and then we started going back. Like we had a recommendation for some of our younger deputies to start going back to the calls after the situation was isolated, right? And so this started happening it's been about a month since COVID, since they started back school. So I think it's been like 3 weeks. And this was from one of our younger deputies who came from an education background, but now in law enforcement. And so I didn't know specific tools. Like when I started seeing the kids, when they're not on the Zooms and they're coming outside and things of that nature, just stopping and encouraging them to log on to the Zooms and them really talking about things in their that's going on in their home. That's not necessarily that you have to report to CPS, but something there and you can go back to kind of looking at that. So, I mean, it's a very powerful tool. It's something that I'm looking to put into our everyday usage as far as our road patrol is concerned. And then also partnering and seeing what's going on in the communities, in this specific community, exactly like what Pastor McDonald was doing over at Prospect with opening up his doors and making sure that these students have a safe space.
Great. That's good to hear that this is going to impact the Sheriff's Department because it is very important for those follow-ups, especially with the shootings and things that have been happening lately. So we'll come back to that. I'm going to go ahead and go down to who I see on my screen. So I'm going to go to Superintendent Kelley Williams.
Thank you. Yes, this has been very trying for the Pontiac School District as well as other Oakland County districts in regards to how we accommodate our students and our families around support during these times. And so we have created pathways of communication. Communication is so key. If you're not talking to the children, if you're not talking to the families in your neighborhoods, around the corner, in the grocery stores to find out and do check-ins, how are they doing? You will never know what they're experiencing. So we have a hotline set up. We have been visiting homes. We have been working with our partners, as someone mentioned earlier. Pastor McDonald opened his doors up for children to come and have a safe place to learn. When you see our children in the community, stop, talk to them, find out what's going on with them, because you will be surprised with what they will reveal. A lot of us think they don't want to talk, when in actuality, they do want to talk. When we had the resilience filming at the high school, it was amazing with what the students shared out. And they didn't even know some of these people, but it was a safe spot because we created a safe place for them to be free to talk. And that is what we have emulated since then, where in the beginning of each class during advisory, we had circles of discussions where students would talk about topics that they may not have talked about regularly. Whether it's, what about food? How do you feel about food? And things were revealed either through journal writing or through discussions openly, but we gave them a safe place to discuss options of what they can do next in regards to dealing with trauma.
Thank you, Superintendent Williams. So I want to go to Pastor McDonald, since Superintendent Williams and Gil Garrett and Sister Hatchett have both brought up what he's doing over at his church. Pastor McDonald, how have you shifted in terms of the COVID situation?
Well, I mean, we are currently at this particular time, as it relates to this COVID situation and our children trying to receive the education that they need. And certainly we understand some of our youth as well have been in some toxic situations. So it was certainly laid upon my heart to try to do as much as I could to provide a safe learning environment, virtual learning environment for our children who are in some of those situations. And so they get to come every day as if they were going to school, sit in a safe environment, get their breakfast, get their lunch each day, do their gym, go out for a walk, and then talk to the adults that are there. And we have heard, we've got some circumstances right in our building today that we've had to address with domestic violence between the parents and things of that nature. So this has truly been an opportunity for us to be an outlet, certainly trying to find a way to open up additional spacing, because right now we have a waiting list of children or parents who have contacted us. So the thing that I think we need to do is, when we can't get them in to our building, we got to find a way to communicate them, whether it be through Zoom, whether it be through small groups. If it's a situation when it's outside of their school time, bring them back to the building, just have some conversation with them. I found out so much about so many of our youth over these last 3 weeks. One young man told me on Tuesday, he wants to be a chef. So we want to help him in that journey, right? So I think we have to do everything we can, use every resource that we can to reach our youth and the parents. That's really critical, reaching those parents.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to go to Mary Jane. As a parent, Mary Jane, we saw on the film how you understood ACEs and the impact on your daughter. How has that experience been for you during COVID as a parent?
Because we had such a really good foundation, and really good lines of communication early on in our relationship. It's been somewhat like difficult, but I mean, it's going to be traumatic for everybody to go through this pandemic. Let's just face that, right? That's the reality. Is it's not just the kids, it's us too, right? So some of the things that I've done, like, is instead, like, I can't minimize the impact of a pandemic. So what I do is I try to like create more experiences that are lighthearted and fun, almost to like, it's not all bad. We're going to be fine. You know, like, yeah, sure. We talk about our feelings, but sometimes we don't want to talk about our feelings. We just want to have fun. So we invented games to play outside. And, you know, like sometimes we just sing songs or like watch TikTok videos together. And, you know, I'm just trying to create an environment in which we can forget for a minute what's going on, so that, you know, we're not always just like soaked in, oh, the world is crazy right now. Because we already all know that. We do. We know that. That's good. We can talk about it when we need to, but let's also make some good memories during this really weird shifting of time.
Oh, okay. So, Dr. Turpin, as a medical professional in this environment and all that you have seen and the altering of this community, what do you see? How do you see it for us? Unmute yourself, Doc.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. I don't see a whole lot different in terms of what our objectives need to be. Of course, the immediacy of the pandemic is something that's going to come and it's going to go, you know, and the other problems that we had going into it will still be here. And it's not, you know, handling the pandemic from a scientific point of view is, you know, there's certain precautions we have to have in terms of our you know, protocols. But the needs of these kids have been there since forever. And, you know, how sophisticated are we going to be as a community in terms of setting up the interventions and interactions with adults that they need to have in order to grow up to be successful human beings? The churches play a part, the schools play a part, community groups play a part. We all have a part to play. And better means of communication amongst the community's leadership is imperative for moving through this. I've seen programs where they have like parole officers that carry the files of the kids that they're assigned to in their cars. And the kid, you know, he's trying to get his life together. And sometimes the chaos of that child's life, I'm having dinner cooked. But sometimes the chaos of the child's life is such that they can't find papers that they need. So the parole officer is riding around that particular community. He has that child's file in his car. Child is trying to apply for a job or apply for this or that, and he calls his parole officer, and the parole officer gets over there and gets him the information. So how well we integrate into the lives of these kids who have had incidents with the police or in their schools is important in terms of getting them over the hump. Sometimes, you know, it's just a broken tail light that sets everything off.
Correct. Thank you, sir. And Mr. Norcross, you have been on both sides of politics and community. How do you, you know, as Ms. Hatchett said, how do you foresee some changes in this environment for our children in Pontiac in terms of ACEs?
Well, I really like ACEs because it helped me to put some things in perspective about myself, you know, and I am a part of this community that's going to be the thing that's going to develop the children. Going back to that old proverb about it takes a whole community village to raise a child. And, you know, you got to have yourself hooked up too. There's some things I realized, some things that I need to stop doing, some things I need to start doing. And it's also helping me to see some things within my circle of friends that we need to look at not doing and starting to do. And then looking at the greater community and the governmental structure and some of the agencies that are here, things that they need to do and things they need to stop doing. One of the areas that's really jumped out is this thing of communication within the community. You know, the different modes and methods of communication, really need to improve that, especially internet connections. We have children that are getting kicked off of the internet as they try and have some of their lessons, or they're running out of the amount of space they have on the hotspots and that sort of thing. And these are things that if we as a community understand the ACERs, and we can start using maybe our count community-wide of how well we're suppressing those ACERs as a statement of how well we are doing as a community, as opposed to some of the other surrogate measures that we have. I think we can start to develop that sophistication that Dr. Turpin was talking about, and we'll see how we can expand on different activities such as Pastor McDonald and Ms. Hatchett and other folks have been doing. So yeah, ACERs, you know, my thing is if you can't count it, it's very hard to control it. But you need some way of quantifying it and looking at it and then going back, understanding what things you can do personally with others, as a group, to really bring about ACERs. And let me put in one plug, it's almost out, but September the 30th is the last date. If you know someone that hasn't put in their census, make sure they file those census. We're at about a 62% a response rate. We've had additional folks gathered up by the United States Census Department where they've gone out and personally touched people. So that 62% is not the actual response rate, but we should really be 100%. And this does a lot to help us have the resources to get going. So those are some of my thoughts.
Can see you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Northcross, for that plug. You are absolutely right. So as we're talking about ACEs, and we know that resilience looks like this. You have resilient parents, you have building attachments and nurturing relationships, you have social connections, you meet the basic needs of children, you learn about parenting and how children grow, and then you build on those social and emotional skills. So the question I then have is, how do we, as we're doing this work, we are boots on the ground, you have your churches, you have your school districts, you have your community leaders, you have your parents, you have, support networks. How do we get the parents involved in really trying to understand the importance of ACEs, especially given the nature of our world that is impacting our local environment? Because these children are inundated and overexposed to a very volatile situation. Then they have to live in their local environment. So anybody can answer that question. Just raise your hand and we'll unmute you. How do we reach the parents to help them? Because they are a part of the key to helping their kids overcome some of these toxic environments. Nope. I got Ms. Hatchett.
Hi, we have to switch. The first thing we need to do is understand that these parents are products of the same thing that they're taking their children through. So our parents need us to befriend them, to mentor them, to help them with the situations that they are going through. We don't attack them, and we don't talk down to them, and we don't accuse them, but we look at their needs and see what can we do to help this parent. If you got a line in or a connection with the child, hook up with that parent. Let that parent know that you are there for them and you are their friend also.
Anybody else?
I was going to say,
Jane. Go ahead, Mary Jane.
Who was that? Mary Jane?
Yeah. So it's as a parent who's suffered like childhood trauma and then undone childhood trauma, the thing that's really important to remember is that the parents sort of have to come to it on their own. It's not something that you can just like the parent of being something and then they're going to be responsive. That's not going to work. So maybe just having them, like maybe getting the ACE tests out to parents and letting them take that look that's like, oh, that's trauma. Oh, that's my trauma, and then maybe getting them and offering them the help first might help transition that. Because yeah, what Maddie Hatchett was saying, that's right on. Like you can't, they're human beings too, even though they're not, like doing a great job, like holding on to that at certain moments. They're still in there. They're still in there and they are not their trauma.
Yeah, parenting isn't easy.
No, it's not. And not even being able to like recognize what kind of parent you're really being. You're just in the moment, you're just surviving. And if we can get them to a place where they're reflecting, then that's a sweet spot where something might happen, something good.
Anybody else? I think I heard Pastor.
Yeah, I mean, Mary Jane and Ms. Hatchett both said it. Somehow there's got to be small segments of what we have experienced and know through this resilience documentary given to the parents. I don't know that you're going to give them a situation now where they're all going to just sit down and watch the whole movie, but they need small segments to see and begin to understand. I don't know if it's a pamphlet with 4 lines on it sent to them, something to help them to begin to understand that they might be able to process what's really happening. And I know Ms. Williams has probably heard it. I can tell you that her teachers are seeing a lot of it through the virtual learning, because as we've got our virtual learning center and I'm able to walk around and sit next to a child and listen in, I see what some of the children are going through at home. I mean, parents the child is in class, the parents cursing them out, hitting them upside the head. A lot of these things are happening. So small segments of information need to be sent out as much as possible, just to start familiarizing the parents with what the trauma that they may be creating is causing.
Yeah, it feels like we're a little stuck. I wanted to say that a lot of times parents they don't realize. Hello?
Yes, who's that?
Oh, goodness. I don't know how many of you are experiencing this, but it looks like we've gotten kind of stuck.
I can hear you.
We
can hear you, Devin.
Okay. I was just going to say that in our early literacy programming, parents are often surprised at how much children absorb at a young age. So when you're reading to them and teaching them their ABCs, well, I think that people are also surprised or may not know that their children are being affected by, unstable things that are happening in the home. So if they're arguing or even having physical fights around, a toddler or a child under 5, they don't realize how much that child is affected by it and how it will continue to affect them in their life. And I think that's something that, we really need to get out there, that people need to support their children in a way of shielding them or helping them heal from things that they've experienced in the home.
If I may add, I don't know, can everyone hear me?
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that we have found is that you can't judge. And a lot of us think that we know situations that are taking place in the home when we don't know the full dynamics. And so what we have found in going through the ACEs and studying it and talking about mindfulness is that the parents love their children and they think that they are doing the best that they possibly can as parents. And when you begin to peel back the onion of layers with discussions with the parents when they come in to talk about disciplinary issues or attendance, you then find out that the parent is really traumatized with not only raising several children or one child, but not having a job, not knowing if the lights are going to be turned on. And so that's when, as a school district, we have tried our best to create situations to provide wraparound services for the parents, meeting the parents' needs. Because if we don't meet their needs, they're not going to be impactful in their child's life. So when we talk about not judging, we talk about giving them a safe space to talk about what their needs are, and then trying to find resources for the parents. And when we do that, we do find that the parents rise to the occasion and become more active because they feel like we really do care for them and their child.
Thank you, Kelley, for that. I want to just finish with Gil. I don't know if I don't see your camera, Gil, but I know you're there. As a police sheriff in this community, you all have a very, very key dynamic. Huh? Can you hear me?
I didn't hear that first part. I can hear you now. Okay.
So you, as a police officer, as a deputy in the sheriff's department, you all have a very critical relationship to create with young people in this community. And I do see you and I see your partner, you know, out in the community, really to build connections with the young people here. How can we fully support the sheriff's department and law enforcement and the court system in helping you all do this work, this resilient?
I think one of the first things is, and it's happening now again, when you have
really gain a full understanding of, go ahead.
I think, well, I know how it works in Pontiac. I can't speak for other places, but how it works in Pontiac is that Pontiac is very, very confident in reaching out saying, hey, they had a problem with my kid, right? And so between me and my partner, but then it's also the other guys who work the road, like the new guys that come into Pontiac that's not familiar with Pontiac, they've taken an understanding to how Pontiac is more of a, you got to get out your car kind of town. You got to, when you walking up to the house, yeah, you may be there for one reason, but there's going to probably be multiple reasons why you're there. And so what those guys have done have helped to give us a referral program or a referral that, hey, we've been through this house. They got some little kids in that house. And with my background between the schools and between law enforcement, I'm able to, okay, identify who the kid is. And now through the virtual learning, because you know they're going to be home during a certain time, follow up, just to knock on the door, the window, you got your mask on, because you know we got masks now. So we won't be violating the process of COVID. It's just, hey, they just want to see you drive up throughout the window. It's like you and then the next door neighbors are in these communities that we go in. Of course, they looking out, their kids going to want to have contact. So it's just about, you know, making sure that with this ACEs, this component, like I know for a fact, like, if one of my parents took this, or we're able to get them to look at it, they can just, if it's just a glimpse to look at themselves. And what I found that worked is, and has worked with us as far as a law enforcement in Pontiac, I'm not talking about everywhere else, but in Pontiac, we can identify with them because we tell our own stories. That's why we built up that trust. And so where you have guys who are not African-American, they are white, they are Filipino, we have a different demographic of deputies that can go into different neighborhoods, and we're having these conversations. I'm just telling you right now that if it's something, I don't know how I don't know how it will work where we can actually get this resilience piece, just the test, and be able to start that conversation.
We can help you with that.
And continue, right? Because I'm telling you, I'm telling you, it works. Like, it works. I just did not know that this is what it is. And so
now you have a name for it. You have a name for it.
Yeah, right. So a lot of times with our educators and sometimes people in our community, you know, our parents, the ones that we deal with, and it's not the whole of Pontiac. I'm telling you that now. Sometimes people just think the whole Pontiac is, you know, it's not that. We run into the same individuals over and over. I'm talking about generations and families. Maybe 25 of them, I can tell you that off my own experience. But now that I know what it is, I can stop it with the kid. You know what I'm saying? You can literally stop with the kid, and like Mama Hatchet said, I'm sorry, man. Yeah, like she said,
we got it.
Right?
We got. We called you Mama Hatchet.
You have to not judge, because when that parent is hyped and they at their ends with, they don't know that that's what's going on, honestly. So it's working. Like I said, I know it works in Pontiac because I'm here on a regular, and during COVID, it's helped us because the kids are now in places that they still have to face that trauma in, but if they just see you, it's a different. It helps them get through that day, or help them get through that week or month. So that's how it's
Thank you,
helping,
sir.
and appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you. So I just want to, take this time because we're going to shift over to Alan for questions and answers. I just want to take the time to thank everybody who took the time out tonight to just be with us, to have a discussion, to talk about some of the things that, we're seeing in Pontiac. We're going to continue this discussion. It's not just going to stop with, a one-time, Zoom meeting. We have been doing this work for, essentially 5 years, and the culmination of it is, really getting down to what matters here in Pontiac and understanding ACEs. And so, Alan, I'm going to shift over to you.
Thank you, Coco. And thank you for facilitating the really great panel discussion. I'm Ellen Epstein. I'm on the political science faculty at Oakland University, and I work with the OU Peace Early Childhood Group. We've reserved a few minutes to allow people who are on the chat to simply ask a question of the panelists or anybody. And I'm looking in the chat and there's no one who's offered a question, but if there's someone out there who would like to ask a question, then simply raise your hand and we'll get to you that way, or you can just put it in the chat. We have just a few minutes left because we've had such great information this evening. But if you would like to ask something of the panelists or just raise something for yourself, make a statement, if it's brief, we would more than welcome that. And maybe as we're waiting for that, did you want to say something, Coco?
I didn't even introduce myself as Coco Motor with the Wellness Plan Medical Centers.
You don't know who you are.
I just thought about that. But anywho, that's who I am. And I, if there is a resource that anybody needs in terms of medical, health, dental, behavioral health, if you don't have health insurance or any of that stuff, you can just, reach out to me and I can help you with that. I totally forgot to introduce myself.
Wonderful. Thank you. So maybe as to fill in some dead air here until someone wants to raise a question.
I have a question.
Please.
Probably the place that best is able to identify children that are having problems is the school district. So the question is, does the school district feel that it has enough community contacts to address the needs that they find within the school district? Do they feel that there needs to be more collaboration amongst the various organizations that exist today in the community?
So, Dr. Turpin, as of last year, the groups came together. Oakland University, this committee right here, came together and began to discuss the resilience, the ACEs, and going through all of our schools to have that discussion with staff, and then taking it to the actual students. We were stopped mid-year due to the pandemic, but the work has begun and it is going very well as it relates to even our hotline. So we have even on our hotline to address mental illness or mental health supports. They call the hotline and they ask for the supports, and we connect them with the resources, whether it's through Oakland University, honors community. Some of them have even contacted CNS. And so I think the wraparound supports are there now as of last year.
Okay, so now, so it's possible therefore that it's sort of like the triage that happens. You've identified 100 students during the course of a school year, and you send some over here, you send some over there. And do you get feedback in terms of like outcomes or, so, it doesn't have to be specific, but in terms of like what it is that we have in our grasp that we have to deal with.
So Dr. Turpin, I can answer that question in terms of being a resource or having wraparound services for the young
you got feedback.
People, once they make an engagement with an out and they fall under the HIPAA, I was answering that in terms of the wraparound services or the children having access to resources outside of the school district. We made ourselves available so that they had choice. Like, so they have a choice to choose the provider to go to, whether it's CNS, whether it's Easter Seals, whether it's Honor, whether it's the wellness plan. And once they make contact with those entities, then they have a HIPAA pattern that they can't violate. So Correct. Do we get feedback? We don't get feedback necessarily from the providers, but we will get feedback from the referral system. So once those referrals are given out, that information comes back and we have access to that, but not in terms of the care that they've been provided.
Yeah. Yeah, it's curious because, some, certain personality issues, one outfit might be better than another. I don't know how do you know?
You're absolutely right.
It's hard. But it may be hard, but when you're focused on solving the problem, over time you become much more sophisticated. You become better able to
absolutely
recognize and deal with the problems that you have in your grasp. And so this is encouraging because you're having this cross section of dialogue about what a reality of this problem is. And so I'm hopeful that it will continue. You got to have about 10 years of input before you actually be able to make some real difference.
Exactly. Before you see a result.
Think about it that way.
Yep. So in the chat, I also see that Dr. Gupta asked, how can we get more local healthcare people involved from different hospitals in Pontiac? Yeah. This resilience conversation is a global conversation, and I do believe that more and more facilities and entities are really becoming familiar with ACEs, and they have, I know we have been talking about adding the ACE screening before doctor visits. And so it's just another, 10 questionnaire that you get before you see the doctor, but it's important. It's a very important tool to use. I also saw that somebody said on the chat, after screening the resilience film at the high school, I thought, wow, we need to just keep doing this over and over and over. Some kids weren't ready, but might be a month later. And so the repetition is important, and it's the same for parents. You don't just give it to them once, you just keep doing it. So how do we keep doing it? And I'll let Tomoko or Shauna or somebody else answer that.
I really think that it is the community, collaboration, like partnering with all of those who are here, and also like CNS, Easter Seal, it is really the collaboration and trying to get to parents, for example, is, hasn't been that easy for us, but if we could have a way to partner, I know that Tanya Christ is on here, but she's working with Chambers, with Damani, working to get the parents involved too. So there's a lot of, I think, things. Annika Bo, also our faculty member, is working with Parent University with Superintendent Williams. And so I think there's a lot of things going on within the community that we all, if we could all connect and communicate. And I think that came up earlier about communication amongst leadership, but really communication among like what we're doing so we could coordinate our efforts. So I think that's one way to do it. And yeah, we just have to keep looking for ways to do this.
And Tomoko, Diane Baldwin has asked if we're making the screening available to residents and parents. I think it's just the same question about, are we going to have more screenings of the film?
So I'm wondering if she's asking about the screening of the film or the ACE questionnaire. And I'm thinking this might be about ACE questionnaire. And I know there are, we need to really, be mindful of how we do use the ACE questionnaire themselves for individual, because it's not considered an individual, like a scoring thing, but we do need to find a way to bring the information about what those 10 ACEs are to everyone. I know that as Coco said in pediatric care, they are trying to bring that questionnaire into their practices. But yeah.
I think this was more about just additional opportunities in the future for seeing the film.
Oh, for seeing the film, yes. So we are trying to look into that. So one of the things is that ACE, Michigan ACE Initiative has been reluctant about us doing the work all virtually because of, things that might bubble up as we're doing it and if we don't have any follow-up. So we have been very careful about, how we would get around or go about doing this. But of course, we really don't know when the situation is going to end. So Michigan ACE Initiative has started to open that up and just had a training with us last week on how to start to deliver the training online. So one of the things that we will be doing and is that, so there will be a Michigan ACE Initiative Community of Champion training. So they have this training that Michigan ACE Initiative has come up with to train trainers who are expert in ACEs and this resilience work within the community. So they could be champions community. So that training where we will be bringing into Pontiac soon, and we'll let this group know once that happens. So.
Thank you. And now you can close. So I think we're at the point of the program where you can offer some closing remarks.
Yeah, so I'll start, but thank you again for joining us today. There are just a few things. I know that when you registered, you were asked if you want the Pontiac Strong bumper stickers. And so I just want to make sure that you know that we will start mailing those soon. So hopefully you'll get it. And I don't know if you can see it, but I'm holding it up. It has Dr. Turpin's, you got to remember where you came from in order to get to where you got to go in the bottom. So that will be going out for those who have requested in the registration. Again, the Michigan ACE Initiative's Community of Champion training will be coming to Pontiac soon, and we'll let you know about that. We'll also let you all know when this Pontiac Strong, when we make it available publicly on YouTube. We are planning to do that. And we will have closed captioning in English as well as Spanish subtitles, thanks to Melissa Bishop, our graduate student assistant, and Dr. Raquel Prieta from the Modern Languages Department. So yeah, and lastly, we'll email you a feedback survey within a couple days or so if we could get some more feedback on how you thought about this event, and also Pontiac Strong and any other feedback and how to do this work together would be great. So thank you again. And I wanted to cite the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's words, and she said, real change, enduring change happens one step at a time. So we hope that this event will contribute to that step. that we are making together for Pontiac. So Devin, Coco, Shauna, Alan, anything to add before we close?
Just thank you everyone for sharing your time and your experiences. We need to do more of this, especially at a time like this when we're so isolated. This has been very uplifting for me, always informative. And thank you especially to Devin for hosting us this evening. Thank you so much for all you've done.
Oh, thank you. I just, I wanted to thank everyone for coming. And whenever I think about resilience and that documentary and the ACEs and all that, I like to focus on the hope of self-care and how people can move forward. And we think about that a lot in our programming at the library. We offer all types of programming from yoga to, mindfulness and meditation. And I think that it's important for everyone to take care of themselves and others. And so I thank you all for your work in the community, and thank you for coming this evening. And I have special thanks for our chairperson, Ms. Maddie Hatchett, and our and of course, Tomoko Wakabayashi for putting this on. It's been great collaborating with you. This is probably the biggest, we had about 38 people in the Zoom room today. And I'm finally calm because I'm like, oh, it's over. But I'm so grateful that I was able to participate and to host this. And I look forward to doing more on this topic in the future. So thank you so much. And if you have a program or something you want to collaborate or you want to work with the library on, please give me a call.
Thank you, Devin.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming, and we will see you the next time.
And just to add, we have another event with OSHA, Grandparents Raising Children Support Group on Monday at the same time. So,
yeah.
Thank you, Lisa Gradsky, for hosting, because she's going to host the one on Monday.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good evening.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.